Hi guys, and welcome to another review. This time around I'm bringing you the DUNU Titan X. This is the latest IM from DUNU, a single ED, focusing on the more budget end of DUNU's lineup. There's actually two versions of this Titan X, one which is priced at around $34, and then another one which is a little bit more, closer to $40. The difference being one has got the 3.5mm cable like I've got here, the other one has got a DSP terminated cable with a microphone on that particular one. In terms of what the Titan X is, I don't think there is any relation to the other DUNU Titan models. I mean, the appearance, first of all, is totally different, and I think the overall concept in terms of the sound is also different. This one is marketed as kind of a gaming focused IM, while the others are more let's call it audiophile focused. Accessories wise, I mean, we don't get a pouch. Okay, we do get is the nice tips that DUNU usually provides with their products. I mean, these are basically the same as you get in any other model, 142, 242, whatever model you're talking about. Okay, so you got nice tips. Where have DUNU kind of skimped a little bit to provide us then a high quality build, a high quality driver? It's on the cable. The cable is I mean, it's a cable. It's not a bad cable. It kind of has a good look to it, but it's a basic cable, no exchangeable terminations. Like I said, you either have a DSP or then the 3.5 like I've got here. But, you know, they've spent money where it matters. And where it matters is where the build of the actual IM is solid. This is a really solidly built IM compared to other metal built IMs at this price point. I think this is probably one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest. It's really, I mean, especially I've got here the Soratune, and you pick up one and you pick up the other, and you definitely notice a difference in the build. What does that ultimately mean? Well, it means that you basically can run over it, and I think it will survive. I don't think there's going to be really any issues. There seems to be, if you look here carefully at the vents, there seems to be what I would say is probably a helmet resonator of types, because that one vent there is bigger than usual, which was already the case in the other Titan models. Let's put it that way. They've also got that larger vent, which kind of gives us the idea that they've maybe used more than just the traditional way of tuning. They've maybe been careful with using kind of a helmet resonator type of system here to provide better performance. And the reality is, the configuration of in terms of sound, or the type of sound or the tuning style that they've used here is a modified Harman kind of, or an improved Harman curve. Let's put it that way. In terms of but a little bit more on the sound in a few minutes. As regards into, or concerning the build, just to finalize, it fit perfectly, no issues. I'm actually using some of the tips that are provided by the Titan X, worked perfectly. I did try my usual KB07s and my the Venus Velvet and so on, but I ended up just opting for these ones. They work fine. It does provide, and this is actually the medium size, it actually does provide a nicer, deeper fit, and I did find it with deeper fit, I actually enjoyed more the sound. Why? Because with the larger tips that sometimes I enjoy using, I like using, and I do that when the actual nozzle or the IM shape doesn't allow me to deep fit the IM, because with the larger tip in this particular case, the weight of the IM was kind of wiggling it off my ear canal, and it was coming out. With the medium-sized tip, I'm actually able to fit it deep and secure the IM better, which, again, like I said, the weight of the IM was the main culprit. Did I notice any real difference between the large and the medium-sized tip in terms of sound? Honestly, no. I didn't really notice. I just found was that I was able to maintain a higher degree of consistency. So if I was walking around, instead of once in a while having to adjust the IM and making sure that it fit in my ears, no, I just left it and that was it, basically. Breaking it now down in terms of sound, and that's I think what we all want to know. It's got that modified type of Harman tuning, let's put it that way, which means then that the bass, compared to the usual or to the more traditional Harman curve, it's got the sub bass slightly boosted, which does then give us a nice, deep, powerful bass with very good impact and a good sense of physicality, a good sense of atmosphere. Let's put it that way, with that physical aspect of the bass. Mid-range, vocals are clean, clear, and I think that's down to as well the fact that they've, I wouldn't say overly boosted, but they've made sure that that early part of the mids to upper mids is nicely emphasized. It's nicely, it's got that nice energy that is required to make then the bass sound alive, clean, and not muddy. So in terms of vocals, nothing to be said there. They're clean. There's no sibilance. There's nothing. It's really. I mean, I wouldn't. There's really nothing that I can criticize, especially when you consider the price point, obviously. And then in terms of the high frequencies, I think because of the way that they've done the diaphragm in this particular driver that they used, of it being separate to the actual surround, and that then allowing for the physical movement of the driver to be more efficient, for any distortion and breakup of the diaphragm to be less. I think what that has been able to do is provide a driver, or provide us with a driver capable of giving a high level of transparency, high level of cleanliness in the high frequencies, without being harsh or piercing or sibilant of any way. So it's got a nice extension up top, and I think all of it is, or a lot of it is down to that, like I said, to that very high quality driver that they've been using. They've used, yeah, in the case of the Titan X. Technically, I would say that. Technically, as I was saying, my apologies. Technically, I was saying that the takeaway here on the Titan is the soundstage. Oops, my apologies there. Okay, there we go. I would say it's the soundstage. The soundstage is bigger than what we usually find at this price point, and that was actually the first thing that surprised me, was how big the sound is. And even more so because of the amount of impact and bass that it has. It's a very engaging, very fun, sounding IEM. And when you have this amount of fun, of slam, let's put it that way, and then at the same time having it have the presence while still feeling proper and not sluggish, and you definitely know that you are listening to a product that has been properly developed. It's not been a question of just slapping parts together and just hoping for the best. So technically that soundstage is big because of these factors, that the fact that they've chose the high quality driver and they've tuned it properly allows then for soundstage to be really bigger than what I was expecting. Detail retrieval as well, pretty decent for the price. I would say that there are perhaps IEMs that maybe ultimately they will go and fetch a little bit more detailed retrieval, but then they don't have the same slam as this. And one such IEM that comes to mind is the Z4 from Zuliniao. It's an IEM which is very capable in that aspect, but then doesn't have the fun, engaging factor that the Titan X has. In terms of timbre and tonality, for the most part, it's correct. I mean, I really didn't. Yes, it is a little bit colored here and there, but I really can't complain again. I can't really say, no, this is a fault here or there. No. So technically, I would say soundstage is the takeaway. Imaging close. The detail retrieval, micro and macro details, and timbre and tonality. I think they're all kind of come in second place. There's no real one that distinguishes itself, other than, like I said, the soundstage, which really makes it come out. As for the way it needs power or driving or something else, I found that it didn't really need that much power. The fact that it's got a very high sensitivity, they rated at 123 decibels, and being 16 ohm impedance, it makes it easy to drive, and it is an easy IEM to drive. It goes plenty loud without having to worry about having this crazy powerful dongle to drive it or anything of the sort. So in that aspect, I think perfect. In conclusion, what can I say about the Titan X as like a kind of overall for it? If you want something which is fun, that sounds really good in terms of bass, is engaging, is going to get you going, but doesn't trade that slam or that presence in the bass for a lack of then sounding proper up top, or then becoming, like I said earlier, sloppy or sluggish or slow in the way that it then handles, the more, let's say, audiophile tracks. No, the Titan X does that perfectly. I was actually quite impressed. I'll be honest with you. In my initial listening, because of that slam that the bass is capable of, and because of what I was listening to as well, I was kind of thinking, okay, this is just going to be another more boomy IEM, although that's not the best way to describe it. But once I started going through my playlist and I started listening to different things, I have to say that I was very impressed. It wasn't, when you started listening to an IEM like I was doing that particular day, and I'm listening to some dub or some EDM, you don't really get a perception of what it is capable of doing. And once I started listening to more, Carol Dubach and Dominic Phil Ames and the kind of music that I like listening when I'm in a more relaxed manner, and I started seeing how well and how capable the Titan X was actually being, I then came to realize that it had a few tricks up its sleeve. It wasn't just a one-trick pony. Okay, what did I kind of bring out here to compare the Titan X to? Compare. You know that as of late I've tried to avoid a little bit that comparing, because it's always very relative. What I talk about on IEM is my listening experience in my ears and how I feel. But there are a few IEMs here that I thought would be interesting to kind of place the Titan X, that would help place the Titan X. What are those IEMs? Well, I've got here the QE is the bell. I've got here the Soratune, the BI or the BL02. I don't know how you're going to... I've seen it named both ways. I would say it's a BI02. I've got here the Rose Techniques Quiet C, and I got here an oldie, which is the Sony MH755. And yes, this is an MH755. It's not a clone. I've got a whole bunch of them. And I'm saying this because I had a person one time tell me, oh, it's impossible that you got original. No, this is an original. I've had this IM for a long, long time. And when I actually bought this one, I bought all of the other ones that the gentleman in question had. So I've got some 755s and I've got some 750s. The difference basically being between the 755 and the 750, if you don't know, is the 755 has got a shorter cable to be used in the Bluetooth kind of extension or applications, while the 750, the 750, has got a longer cable with a microphone. That's in essence the difference. I've got both of those models. I've got, I think, in total 7 of them, and I've graphed all of them. And first of all, they actually graph pretty decent in terms of their consistency. And the 750, what I do notice compared to the 755 is that it's got a little bit less energy in the upper mids and treble, but I think it's just basically down to that particular 750 that I have still being with its original cable. The 755s, as you can see, I've converted into an MMMCX. I've got one here, another one, yes. No, actually this one I haven't converted it. This one is I've converted it, yes, to a better quality cable, but not to MMM6. But this particular one, I converted it to an MMM6. Anyway, why did I bring up the 755? Well, because these all have a very similar tuning style, which I'll show you in the graphs in a couple of minutes. And I was actually surprised because the Titan X does have some of the magic that the 755 has, which has got that big bass. But it doesn't mean that big bass is automatically an indicator that you're going to lose clarity in the mids and the vocals and so on and so forth. And so that's why it's over here. Anyway, let's break this down. Let's start here with the bell. The bell, as I mentioned in my review that I did a couple of weeks ago, it's an IEM that kind of takes I would say the cadence, the original cadence or cadenza, sorry, and the dolce, and kind of is a marriage between those two, and provides us with a warm, bass boosted, smooth treble, easygoing kind of daily driver IEM. That's, I think, the best way that I can describe it. It's got that nice V-shaped signature with emphasis definitely on the bass, but it's got a very relaxed kind of treble. It's the treble on the bell is in my opinion very it's non-offensive. It's not in your face. It's just very nice. And although graphically, when you look at it, you might not think of it that way. It is. It's got a very relaxed type of treble. The takeaway, as I mentioned, it's an IEM for long listenings. So no sibilance, no harshness, and that makes it an easy set to live with and listen to. So I would say, if you want, and this is not exactly the best way of putting it, but if you want a more easygoing listening, yes, the QE the bell will probably be a safer choice. So you go for the bell if you want that more smooth, warm, all day type of listening. Definitely. If you want a bit more fun and engaging, then the Titan. But overall, when you see the graph, they actually are graph very similar. A little bit more of an emphasis in the mid bass here as compared to the Titan. But that's the biggest difference between the two of them. Compared to, my apologies, 1 second here. Compared here to the Soratune, I would say you have, well, you could probably say very much what I've said about the bell. I think I can apply here. It's again a very easy going IM. It's an IM that it's got this well-rounded sound with a nice warm low end, which is not boomy. It's a long listening session type of a listening IM. Very comfortable. The shell on the Soratune is one of the most comfortable shells that I've had in a long time. It's got this metal built as well. Very light IM, very very light. Especially when you pick it up and you compare it to the Titan, very light. But it's an IM that I would again say it's clean, it's safe in its tuning, it's got good clarity, good imaging. It doesn't try to be over analytical. I would say maybe pay a little bit of attention to the tips that you use to get the best out of it. But otherwise, I didn't really find it to be an IM which had any real fault. It's an IM that I would say it's a pleasant, versatile type of IM, very very similar overall to the bell, with just a little bit less, I would say, maybe bass presence, of that physicality of the bass. Okay. Or now in terms of the how it stands to the Titan X, basically what I said about the bell is the same thing. So more relaxed listening, more alive listening on the Titan X. Now, as for the Quiet C2, it's again a very fun IM, probably the IM here that's as much fun as the Titan X, where the focus or the spotlight, if you want to put it that way, would be in the bass and in the upper mids, which gives the mids a really live kind of sensation with that bass from behind, making it very very punchy, very rumbly. I would say, again, that much like in the Titan X, they've made sure that the bass, although it's big and powerful and present, it doesn't get compromised in any manner or it doesn't compromise in any manner than the mids and the clarity of the vocals. And once again, that's down to the fact that they've used a good driver. So it's an IM that will be, in my opinion, performing really well with EDM or hip hop or pop, which is where that kind of more V type of signature or can benefit or be in its element. But it still is very listenable for longer sessions. It doesn't. That's one of the things I think we can take away from any one of them, is that they are all capable of being very long listening IMs. Maybe these two longer listening, but overall the vibe here is always easy to listen to IEMs for long periods of time without instilling any fatigue. Maybe the way the IM will ultimately fit you could be one of the reasons that will dictate that fatigue coming earlier or later. But ultimately, I think that's the one thing here that should be the main takeaway. Easy to listen to IMs that don't bug you with the fit or with being harsh in certain parts of the frequency spectrum. Anyway, I was forgetting now, the MH755. The MH755, like I said, reminded me very much of the Titan. And again, the thing here is, if you've never listened to a 755, the original one, it's going to be hard to understand what I'm saying. But the 755 just surprises you from the first moment. Why? Because you look at it, it's a tiny IM. It's got a 9mm driver inside. It just doesn't look anything. I mean, this is like a third of the size of the Titan or any one of these IMs here. You struggle to actually put it into your ear and making sure that it sits there and doesn't move out and so on and so forth. But then when you start listening to it, you are absolutely blown away. You kind of ask yourself, how is it possible that this seemingly flimsy IM that I can crush with my two fingers sounds this good? And this is a true testament that as long as the driver is half decent, and over here, obviously, as you can imagine, I don't even know how it's possible that they could have provided something for this price. I mean, Sony really pulled a trick out of the hat there. I don't know how they did it. But this proves that you don't really have to go crazy and have fancy drivers and so on and so forth. If you choose a driver which is half decent, half capable, and you tune it properly, which is the case here, you will get a solid performance. And mind you, I'm talking about the MH755 with the stock cable. You know, it's that thin little cable that if you push it a little bit too hard, it's going to break. When I did do the cable swap like you see here, the sound improved, which is one of the few times where you could actually say, no, cables make a difference. No, it actually improved because that's how nasty the stock cable is. So with the better cable like I have here or the other 755 examples that I've got, trust me when I say that this thing will absolutely blow you away. And we're talking about an IM that costs like $5, $6 back in the day, and it even came with some of Sony's equipment many times. So this is as cheap as can possibly be, and it sounds phenomenal. I actually paid more than that. I paid about $15 for each one of these. Again, it was a decision that I ended up making myself because I wanted to have them, and I just said to myself, let me buy the first. I bought the first. It was original, and I bought all of the other ones that particular seller had. But anyway, very much the same experience as I would say of the others. The one that comes closest to this is probably the Soratune. The Soratune and the MH55 are probably the two that are the most similar in overall sound. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. I mean, my final, let's put it, conclusion, yeah, with regards to the Titan X is really very simple. If you want a big, fun, engaging sound that is got big stage, has slam, and is ultimately not fatiguing, because I didn't find as well the Titan X to be fatiguing, then definitely this is the one to go. If you want a more bass or a focused type of sound, but that is equally non-fatiguing and maybe just loses out in some of the technical aspects compared to the Titan X, then the Quiet C, definitely. If you want a balance with warm kind of all-day type of listening, then the QE ears and the Soratune are two options. And again, the MH55 will sit there, although the 755, because you can't get it anymore, let's not even focus on 755. Let's focus on the ones in the top there. But the takeaway here is that there isn't monumental differences between all of them, or these. The reality is they all are really good at their respective price points, so roughly $30, $30. The Quiet C is a little bit more, it's around $50. They all are very good. They all have very good internally. They're all very good drivers. Difficult to say which are the best drivers, but I would say that the best drivers are the ones on the Titan X and on the... Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the DUNU Titan X. This is the graph of the Titan X, and as you can see, nice big bass. That 100 hertz point corresponding nicely to just over 2 kilohertz. The amount of energy before and the amount of energy in front is nicely matched, with this amount here being just the right amount to clean up the bass and not allow the mids and the mid bass to be overly muffled, overly dark, overly warm. Everything is really nicely balanced. I mean, very nicely balanced. It's a slightly colored take on the Harman tune, definitely, but it's nicely done, it's tastefully done, and it gives a nice, engaging, fun sound, good bass slam, good, dynamic feel of the bass. The mids are nice and clean and detailed, not overly forward, not overly recessed. Everything is just very nicely balanced, right amount of extension up top, clean, great sound stage. That's the takeaway, like I mentioned before. So really nice sound compared to the QE Ears Bell. You can see that the style of tuning is very similar, but the Bell has got a bit more mid-bass slam that doesn't allow it then to let the mids shine as much as possible, as they do on the Titan rather, and the extension up top is a little bit more recessed, a little bit more tame. What that ultimately means is that we have a sound which is also very, very engaging, very, very exciting, but very laid back, a little bit more long listening type of session, non-fatiguing. Not that the Titan X is fatiguing, but I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. So nice sounding IEM as well. The Bell, just a little bit more recessed, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more relaxed. I think is rather the best word, but a little bit more relaxed as compared to the Titan. Compared to the, where is it here? The Soratune, exactly. The Soratune, the BL002. There we go. Basically very similar. As you can see, the upper mids region here is a little bit less intense as compared to the bass. And again, we have a big bass sound, warm, very fatigue-free, long listening session type of listen. But as I've mentioned as well before, not a huge day and night difference comparing to the Titan. The Titan's got a little bit more detail here and there, a little bit more bass, a little bit less in some songs, a little bit more in others. They very much are trading blows constantly. As compared to the Quiet C2, again, a very similar sort of overall energy, balance, everything. Just a little bit less extension, a little bit smaller sound stage as compared to the Titan. Very similar overall in terms of the sound that it gives actually to the Titan X. I think the Quiet C is probably the one, I would say safely, that's the closest to the Titan X. Also a very good quality driver they're being used, and I think that's again a testament why it sounds as competent as it does. And then finally, the Sony MH755, again a very similar style of tune, as you can see by all of them. When I just put them all here now, you can see they all have the Harman type of tuning, with different levels of intensity given to the bass, and as well to the mids. But overall, the biggest differentiating factor is how the bass is handled with every one of them. The different driver diaphragms or different driver options, again dictating how they will sound. A little bit more warm, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more slam, a little bit less slam. But at the end of the day, they all are very similar. They all are very well tuned, all very engaging, and the Titan just offers DUNU's take on this sort of tuning at this price point, and they've done a great job. They've used a fantastic driver, the unit, the actual shell, the build of the driver. I mean, it's like I said before, it's just, honestly, it's just the cable that's a little bit lacking. And it's not even the fact that it doesn't have a case that's a problem. It's just the cable that's perhaps a little bit lacking, and if the cable had been a little bit better, then again, they would have been able to offer it at this competitive price. It probably would have been closer to the Quiet C's price of $50. So, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Anyway, like and subscribe. Questions, please shoot me, and I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. You take care now. Bye-bye.